Hello students, in this video we are going to discuss the topic verbs present tense. So we are going to discuss about present tense. Now first, what is a tense? Tense refers to the time of an action, or a state of being, whether the action has occurred in the past, present or future. Whenever we think of time, we think of whether the action has taken place in the past, present or future, isn't it? Whether it has taken place in the past or whether it is taking place at the moment or it will take place in the future. So tenses refer to the time of an action. It tells us about the time when the action occurred or the state of being in the past, present or future. Look at these examples, these sentences. The first one, I study in a boarding school. I study in a boarding school. Now here the verb study is indicating that it is in the present, right? It is in the present. It's going on. I am still studying in the boarding school. Second one, he is reading a book. He is reading a book. He is reading is indicating that the action is continuing. It is continuing, right? It is also in present. My father is an engineer. He is an engineer. Now the verb is here is telling us about the state of being. In the second sentence, is reading is telling us that the action is still going on at the moment of speaking. The action is going on. Study also is denoting that it is in the present tense. Okay. Now let's discuss present tense in detail. The present tense is used to refer to an action or a state of being at the time of speaking. Okay. It tells us that present tense tells us the action or state of being is happening at the time of speaking. Okay, at the time of speaking. Now present tense can have two different types. One is simple present, the second one is present continuous tense. Present continuous can also be called as present progressive. Okay, simple present, present continuous or present progressive tense. So first we will see simple present tense in detail. Okay, simple present tense is nothing but the base form of the verb. Base form or in the present tense, base form of the verb. Alright, the simple present can take. Okay, before we see where it can be used, simple present tense, let's see the different forms of verbs we can use in simple present. So the simple present can take one or two forms depending on the subject of the verb. So the form that the verb will take will depend on the subject. So let me make a table here for you. Subject. Okay, it can take two forms. One could be base form of the verb, simply the base form, or it could be base form plus s, or you can just simply say verb plus s. You have to add s with it. These are the two forms you can use in simple present tense. It will depend which one will you use will depend on the subject. Let us see. If the subject is I or you, okay, if the subject in the sentence is I or you, we will use the base form. So take an example like eat. So I eat. You will not say I eats. Okay, it will not be it won't be correct. I eat is the correct one. Okay, you just use the simple base form of the verb without the s. Similarly, you eat. You eat. You eats will be incorrect. So you have to see the subject. If it is I or if it is you, you have to use the base form of the verb. Now eat has been taken as an example. Or you can also add one more example. I work. I works would be incorrect. You work. You works is incorrect. Okay, so with I and you take the base form of the verb. See the next one. If the subject is they or it is we. Okay, they or it is we use the base form of the verb, like they work, they eat. They works is wrong, we eats is wrong. So with they and we, you use the base form of the verb. Next one, children. Just take an example, children. Here it is plural, right? It is plural. So with plural one, they and we are also plural, and they are third person and second person, they and we. So you use the base form with third and second person, plural and singular. Okay, children now is a plural one. So with the plural one also you use the base form. So for example, play. Children play. You will not say children plays. That would be incorrect. So with children you will use the base form. Okay. And if the subject is he, she, or it. Okay. He, she, or it. In this case you will use the base form plus s. So you will say he eats, or she works, or it plays. Okay, eats, works, plays. That is verb plus and s. You cannot say he work. He work is wrong. He eats, he works is right. She eats, she works, she plays is right. It eats, it works, it plays. So with the subjects he, she, it, you use base form plus s, or you can say verb plus s form. This is the form of the verb you have to use. Alright. Now if it is an uncountable noun, that cannot be counted. Like we can take an example, water. With uncountable noun also you use the base form plus s. So you can say water flows. Water flows. You take the s with the word flow. You add the s with the verb flow. So depending on the subject, you will decide which form of the verb to use in simple present tense. Okay, these are the two forms. Either the verb will be in base form or it will be in base plus s. Okay, and that will depend on the type of subject. If it is I, you, it will take the base form. They, we, it will take the base form. Children, if it is a plural, then it will take base form. With he, she, it, you will use the base plus s form, and with uncountable nouns you will use base plus s form. Okay, so remember this table. All right, now we will see where we use simple present tense, where in which situations we use simple present tense. Okay, the first point is a universal truth. Whenever you're talking about a universal truth or a fact, okay, a fact that will not change, that is true for everyone. Okay, such truths or facts are always written in simple present tense. See the example, the moon moves round the earth. The moon moves round the earth. Now here, this is a universal truth. It is a fact, right? The moon moves around the earth. So it is a universal truth or a fact. Therefore, we have used the simple present tense. You can also notice the verb, the form of verb that it has taken. The moon, now we are talking about the moon. Subject is singular here, right? The moon. So it takes the base plus s form. Whenever the subject is singular, you will take the base plus s form. Okay, so it will be the moon moves around the earth, not the moon move around the earth. Okay, next is we use simple present tense to refer to a routine or habitual action. Whenever you're talking about any routine or an habitual action, then you always say those sentences in simple present tense. For example, he goes for a walk at 6 in the morning. He goes for a walk at 6 in the morning. Now this is a routine he's talking about. Every day at 6 he goes for a walk. So this is a routine, this is a habit that this person has. So when talking about such things, we use simple present tense. Here also you can notice the form of the verb that goes has taken, right? So the subject here is he, and we know that when the subject is he, we will use the base plus s form. So go becomes goes, right? Go becomes goes. So he goes for a walk. He go for a walk would be wrong. Alright. Then is a regular action. When you have to just simply state a regular action. For example, snakes hibernate in winters. Okay, this is a statement, basic statement. Snakes hibernate in winters. So you will use the simple present form here. Simple present tense here. Also notice the verb form. Snakes hibernate. What is the subject here? Subject is snakes. It is plural. Like in the case of children, it is plural. So whenever it is plural, we take the base form. So hibernate would be right. You will not write snakes hibernates. That would be wrong. You won't take the verb plus s form. Then comes a ritual. Whenever you're talking about rituals, you will say it in simple present tense. For example, Tamilians celebrate Pongal as the first day of a new year. Okay, so here also celebrate is in base form because Tamilians is plural, right? It is plural, so it is talking about a ritual. This is a ritual that Tamilians have, so in that case also you use simple present tense. Next is characteristics. When you are mentioning characteristics of an animal, thing or person, then also you use simple present tense. For example, owls sleep during the day. Owls sleep during the day. Okay, so owls here is our subject, which is plural, right? Which is plural. So we use the form sleep, the base form, the present form here. We do not say sleeps. That would be wrong. So here the sentence is basically telling us some characteristics about an owl or owls, right? So we use the simple present tense here. Last, see the next one, that is a newspaper headline. Whenever if you notice in newspapers, all the newspaper headlines are usually in simple present tense. For example, Hurricane Ella devastates Bengal. Hurricane Ella devastates Bengal. Notice the form of the verb used here because it is singular, so we are using base plus s form here. We use simple present tense when we are referring to a pre-scheduled future action or event. Pre-scheduled future action or event. That is, it has been scheduled before the past, but the action is about to take place in future. So, whenever we are referring to such actions or events, we use the simple present tense. For example, Dipen Saxena releases his book at the book launch today. Here we use the word releases, okay, releases, indicating simple present tense. It has not happened. He is going to release his book, but it is a pre-scheduled event or an action. So we use the simple present tense here. We use simple present tense for warnings, okay, for warnings. We use it for warnings. For example, fight with me once again and I stop talking to you. Okay, fight with me once again and I stop talking to you. Here it is a warning. You're giving a warning, so you use the simple present tense. When you're talking about likes or dislikes, okay, when you're talking about your likes or dislikes, what you like or what you dislike, in those cases also you use the simple present tense. For example, Sheila likes kebabs. Sheila likes kebabs. Okay, now see the form of the verb. It is verb plus s because Sheila is singular, right? Sheila is singular, so you take this form. Next, in case of proverbs, in proverbs, alright, what are proverbs, children? Proverbs are nothing but a short sentence that people often quote, which gives advice or tells you something about life. So they are short sentences which people usually quote to give advice or tell you something about life. Like for example, so most of the proverbs are in present tense. Okay, simple present tense. Example: a bird in hand is better than two in the bush. The verb is has been used here, indicating it is in present tense. Okay. Last one, to describe professional activities or duties. Some professional activities or duties. For example, the police maintain peace in society. So it's talking about some professional activity, right? Activity that happens in the profession of police or forces, right? The police here is plural. The police is plural. So you use the base form here, maintain. It will not be maintains. So these are the places where we use simple present tense. Now we will discuss the structure of the simple present tense. Okay, in this table you can see the first column, type of sentences that we can make in simple present tense and the structure you will use to make those sentences. So the first one is affirmative sentence. Okay, affirmative sentences are also known as positive sentences. So first we will see how we can make affirmative sentence and we can make negative sentence in simple present tense. So for making affirmative or positive sentence and negative sentence in simple present, you have to follow this structure. So first will come the subject. Okay, first you will write the subject, then the auxiliary verb. Auxiliary verb, then will come the main verb. So this is the structure for both affirmative and a negative sentence. Now let's see affirmative sentence in detail. Okay. Now when the subject is I, we, you, they. Okay, when the subject is I, we, you, they, in affirmative sentences you do not use any auxiliary verb. Okay, when forming positive sentences you do not use any auxiliary verb, and then it is followed by the main verb. So I work, we work, you work, they work. Now here the main verb will take the base form, as we have discussed earlier that whenever the subject is I, we, you, they, we use the base form of the verb with it. It is a rule, just remember that. Okay. When the subject is he, she, it, Reena, he, she, it, or any name of a person. Okay. In that case also you will not use any auxiliary verb, but the main verb will be of the form verb plus s. Okay, this is a rule you must remember, that whenever the subject is he, she, it, Reena, and you're making a positive or affirmative sentence in simple present, it is not followed by an auxiliary verb, but the main verb will take the form verb plus s. Verb plus x. So he works, she works, it works, Reena works. This would be right. So in affirmative sentences you do not need any auxiliary verb, and also you have to make sure that the main verb takes, whether it takes the base form or the form verb plus s, and that would depend on the subject. Alright, remember these things. Now let's see negative sentences, how you can form negative sentence in simple present tense. Here also it will depend on the subject. So the structure is same. First you will write the subject, then the auxiliary verb, and then the main verb. So you can say in positive sentences the structure would be subject plus the main verb, because there is no auxiliary verb in it. Okay, but negative sentences use auxiliary verb do or does with not. Okay, so in order to make negative sentences in simple present, you have to add do not or does not. Now whether you would use do not or does not would depend again on the subject. Okay, if the subject is I, we, you, they, I, we, you, they, then you will use do not with it. So I do not work, we do not work, you do not work, they do not work. We will not say I does not work. That is incorrect. Alright. So If the subject is he, she, it, or any other singular noun, with them we use does not. So he does not work, she does not work, and it does not work, or Reno does not work. Any singular noun other than these three. Okay. And notice the main verb in both these types. Main verb will be the base form. Okay. Here the main verb will be in the base form in both the cases. Here also in the base form without the s. So you will use, in order to make negative sentences in simple present tense, you have to use the auxiliary verb do not or does not. And where will you use do not or does not will depend on the subject. You will use do not with subjects I, we, you, they. Okay. And it will be followed by the base form of the verb. You will use does not with subjects he, she, it, or any other singular noun, and it will be followed by the base form of the verb. Alright, so this is how you will form affirmative sentence and negative sentence in simple present tense. Now let us see how will you make interrogative sentence, a WH question, and negative interrogative sentence and WH question in a negative form. Okay. Now interrogative sentence means question sentence. Sentence is asking a question. Okay, how will you do that? So for that the structure is the WH word followed by the auxiliary verb do or does, then the subject and main verb. So when you're making interrogative sentences, you will either use WH word, because interrogative sentence is quite inclusive. So inside interrogative sentence comes the WH question. So you may or may not use WH word, or you will start the question with auxiliary verbs do or does. Okay. Now we are talking about positive interrogative sentences. Then comes the subject and then the main verb. Let us understand this with an example. Okay, the example is suppose Radha likes physics. This is the sentence. Now we have to convert it into an interrogative sentence or a question. So this would change into does Radha like physics? With a question mark, because interrogative sentences raise a question, so do not forget the question mark at the end. Now notice here that we have see the structure first. So we have put the auxiliary verb first. This is not a WH question, this is an interrogative sentence. Okay, so the auxiliary verb came first, then the subject, which is Radha, then the main verb, that is like, and the rest of the sentence, which is physics in this case. So notice that I have used does here instead of do. When do you use does or do? Similarly, the way we have seen in negative sentences, right? So you use same thing, or the rule is followed here also. If the subject, okay, if the subject in the sentence is I, we, you, they, okay, I, we, you, they, you will use do in such questions. Okay, you will use do you in such questions. So if the sentence was you like physics, okay, you like physics, so the interrogative sentence in that case would have been do you like physics, right? Because the subject in the sentence given is you, so with you always use the auxiliary verb do. Okay, and if the verb is if the subject is he, she, it, or any other singular noun, in that case you will use does. So here that's why we use does Radha like physics, and this one do you like physics. Alright, do not forget the question mark. Now how to form WH questions? Wait a minute, let me erase this one quickly. Now, what are WH questions? You must have heard about WH words, right? WH words. What are they? They are when, what, where, why, how. These are some WH words. How is also a WH question word. Since they start with a WH, we call them WH question words. So when you frame questions with these, there are more which as well. Okay. So these are WH question words. These are we use these words to frame questions. All right. So how will you form WH questions in simple present tense? Let's see that. So the structure is, first you will write the WH word. So the WH word will come in the very beginning. Okay. WH word will come in the very beginning, then followed by the auxiliary verb, which is do or does. Then the subject, and then the main verb. Alright. So this is the structure of WH question in simple present tense. Now, whether you will use do or does would again depend on the subject you are using. So if it is I, we, you, they, then you will use do. Right? You will use do. If it is he, she, it, or any other singular form of a noun, then you will use does. See an example here. The sentence is, I look like my mother. Okay, I look like my mother. This is a sentence. Now you have to convert it into a WH question. So first you will write the WH word. Here you are referring to a person, so you will use who. Who. Okay, one part of the structure is over. Then the WH word. Now, the auxiliary verb. Which auxiliary verb will you use? Do or does? For that you have to look at the subject in this sentence. I look like my mother. So I is the subject, and we know that we use do with I, right? So who do you look like? This will be the who do you look like. This will be the WH question for this sentence. So we use do here, the auxiliary verb do here, because the subject in this given sentence is I. So you have to make sure you see the subject, and on that basis you use do or does. So this is the structure for WH question. For the negative interrogative sentence also, either we use do not and does not in the auxiliary verb part. Okay, do not will come with subjects like I, we, you, they, and does not will come with subjects he, she, it, and any singular noun. It will be followed by a subject and the main verb. The main verb would be usually in the base form. Okay, with a negative sentence also the same. WH negative sentence. First you will write the WH word, then you will use do not or does not on the basis of the subject. Alright, and then the main verb. So this is the structure of the simple present tense. In order to form affirmative sentence, negative sentence, interrogative sentence, WH question, and negative interrogative and negative WH question. Now let's discuss present continuous or present progressive tense in detail. The present continuous tense is also called the present progressive tense. The other name for this for present continuous tense is present progressive tense. So it refers to an action that is going on at the time of speaking. Whenever you're referring to some action that is going on at the moment, at the time of speaking, we use present continuous tense. We use present continuous tense. See the examples here. Parul is reading a story. Raj is leading the march. Arjun is working tonight. The children are enjoying the movie. In these four sentences, is reading, is leading, is working, are enjoying. Okay, these tell us that the action of reading, leading, working and enjoying is going on at the time of speaking. Okay, when we are speaking, Parul is reading a story at that time. Okay, so whenever at the time of speaking, the action is still going on. So continuity of the action in these sentences is indicated through the following combination. Okay, so this is the structure of present continuous tense. You can say am, you will add the subject first, am or is or are plus verb plus ing. We take the form verb plus ing. This is the structure of present continuous tense. To show the continuity of action, we write the sentences in this structure. First we write the subject, then we may use am, is or are depending on the subject here, and then the verb will be in ing form. That is, we'll use the present participle form of the verb. Okay. Now whether we will use am, is, are will depend on the subject. So if it is I, if the subject is I, then you will use am with it. Okay, you will use am with it. If the subject is we, you, they. Now we and they are plural, you is singular. Even though you is singular, we use are with it. Okay, you are, we are, they are. We are working today. You are working today. They are working today. Okay, you will use are with the subjects we, you and they. If the subject is he, she, it, then we will use is. Okay, we will use the verb is. And if it is in general plural, so like people, people is plural, we are talking about more than one person, so in that case also we will use are. Okay, with I we use am, with we, you, they we use are, he, she, it we use is, and in when it is plural, so for example here we took the example of people, so we use the verb are. You can notice in these examples as well. Parul is reading a story. So Parul is plural, sorry, singular, right? One person. We are talking about one person. So Parul is reading. Reading. The verb is read plus ing, and then the rest of the sentence, a story. Raj is leading the march, because Raj is singular, so we use is. Arjun is working tonight. We use is because Arjun is singular. But in the last one, the children are enjoying the movie. The children is plural, right? We are talking about more than one child. So here we use the verb are. Enjoying the story. Enjoy plus ing and the rest of the sentence, the object. Alright? See that the sentences refer to the continuity of actions reading and working at the time of speaking. We may say that the actions are still going on. So we can understand present continuous tense with the help of this diagram given here. Okay, so the action that we are talking about has started in the past, right? Some point in past, and while we are talking about it, at the time of talking, the action is still going on. See the example, Parul is reading a story. So she started reading in the past, and when we are talking about it, the action is still going on and it has not ended yet, right? It has not ended yet. It might end in the future, but at the moment of speaking, the action is still going on. She is reading a story. So you can use this diagram to understand present continuous tense. Now let us see where we use present continuous tense. Present continuous tense is used, first point, to refer to an action in progress at the time of speaking. Again, similar to the definition of present continuous. So when some action, we have to refer to an action that is going on right now at the time of speaking. Like I am teaching, right? I am teaching. So the activity, the action of teaching is going at the moment, right? So you are learning. You are learning. So learning is going on right now at the time of speaking. So whenever you have to refer to actions that are in progress at the time of speaking, we use present continuous. For example, he is jogging. We use present continuous to refer to a short-term temporary action that may not be taking place at the time of speaking. Okay, when we have to refer to some short-term actions, okay, of shorter duration, actions of shorter duration, but they may not necessarily be taking at the time of speaking. For example, she is coming late to school nowadays. She is coming late to school nowadays. Here, the action of coming late is not taking place at the moment of speaking, right? But this is a action that has been going for a while, and it is continuing and it has not ended. A better example would be I am. Look at this example. I am learning a new language now. Learning a new language now. Okay, in this sentence, I am learning a new language now. The person is not learning, may not be learning at the moment, but at the time of speaking. The act of learning may not be taking place at the time of speaking, but the action is continuing. She is still learning. She is in the process of learning. Okay, she is in the middle of the process, and the action has not ended yet. She has not completely learned the language. She is in the process. So when you have to say about talk about such actions, you use the present continuous tense. Next, to refer a definite plan in future. When you have to talk about some plans you have made in future, for future, the things or the actions that are going to happen in future, which are planned. So when you have to say such things, we use the present continuous tense. For example, I am buying a bicycle this week. So the action buying is going to happen in future, but it is a plan, right? You're talking about a plan. So the action is going to happen in future, but you have planned. This is some sort of a plan, right? You have already planned that you're going to buy this week. So in such cases, when you have to refer to some plans in future, then you use present continuous tense. See the next one, to make a prediction. Prediction means saying what will happen in the future, right? What will happen in the future. So when you make predictions, you use present continuous tense. For example, this film is going to be a big hit. This film is going to be a big hit. So now you're making a prediction about something in future. In future, right? So when you are making predictions, you write the sentence in present continuous form. So the last point is, we use present continuous tense to refer to a long-term continuing action that started before the time of speaking and is expected to continue for some time after the time of speaking. Okay, so we can understand this point with a diagram. Okay, so we are talking about an action that started in the past. Okay, before the time of speaking, it started in the past, and while at the time of speaking it is still going on. Okay, the action is still continuing at the time of speaking, and it is expected that the action will continue after the time of speaking, after some time of speaking, but we don't know when it will end, but it is continuing, it is going into the future. Okay, the action is still continuing. It started before the time of speaking, it is continuing, happening at the time of speaking, and it might continue after some time in future as well. So whenever you are expressing any action like that, you write sentences in present continuous tense. Let us understand this with an example. Luke is taking driving lessons these days. Okay, so now we are at the time of speaking, right? So the Luke taking driving lessons started in the past, right? The action started in the past. At the time of speaking, it is continuing, and it is a long-term continuing action, and it will continue in the future. Okay, Luke has not completely learned the learned driving, right? Luke has not completely learned driving, so he's going to take driving lessons in the future as well. So the action is expected to continue for some time in future after the time of speaking as well. So whenever you're referring to any actions of this sort, you use the present continuous tense. Now let us discuss the structure of present continuous tense. So how we can form affirmative sentence, that is positive sentence, negative sentence, and interrogative WH question sentences in present continuous tense. Let's see first see the affirmative or positive sentence. So the structure for creating a positive sentence in present continuous is, first you will mention the subject. First comes the subject plus the be verb. Okay, be verb, which includes am, are, or is. The be verb am, are, or is plus the main verb plus ing. Okay, this is the structure for forming positive sentences in present continuous tense. Now here one thing you have to note is that when will you use am, are, or is in the sentence? That would depend on the subject used in the sentence. If the subject is I, you will use am. This is special for I, right? With I you always use am. So I am sleeping is the correct one. You will never say I are sleeping, I is sleeping. It is incorrect. So with I you always use the be verb am. Okay, I am sleeping, I am working. Alright, with we, you, they, you use the verb are. Okay, you use the verb are. With we, you, and they, you use the be verb are. Okay, you use the be verb are. So we are sleeping, you are sleeping, they are sleeping. Okay, and if the subject is he, she, it, or Reena, or you can say any singular noun, you will use the verb is. So he is sleeping, she is sleeping, it is sleeping, Reena is sleeping. Okay, so you have to pay attention to the subject, and according to the subject you will use the be verb. So the structure is, first you will write the subject, then the be verb depending on the subject, and then the main verb plus ing. Here sleep is the verb plus ing, so sleeping. Alright, now how will you form negative sentences in present continuous tense? To form negative sentences, you will use the be verb am not, are not, is not. So you will add not to the be verbs. Okay, you will add not next to the be verb. Am not, are not, is not. The structure is same. First you will mention the subject, then the be verb plus not, be verb plus not, and then the main verb plus ing. Okay, the subject first, then you will write be verb plus not plus the main verb plus ing. So this is the structure for forming negative sentences. Now whether you will use am not, are not, is not will depend on the subject. Similarly, as we have seen in the affirmative sentences, so with I you will always use am not. Okay, with I you will always use am not. With your I you cannot use are not. You cannot say I are not sleeping. It's incorrect. I is not sleeping. Incorrect. With I you always use am not. And with we, you, they, you will use are not. With you, we, you, they, you will use are not. So we are not sleeping, you are not sleeping. Okay, they are not sleeping. Some other examples are, we are not visiting friends, you are not visiting friends, they are not visiting friends. Okay, with I will be I am not reading, I am not sleeping. I am not eating. Now, if the subject is he, she, it, or any singular noun like Reena here, then you will use is not. He is not sleeping. He, subject, if the subject is he, the be verb will be is, and since it is a negative sentence, so you'll add not. And what is the verb? Sleeping, sleep, right? Plus ing, sleeping. So the negative will be he is not sleeping. Alright, she is not sleeping. It is not sleeping. Reena is not sleeping. So you will not use are not with he, she, it, or Reena. He are not sleeping is incorrect. Since the subject is singular, the verb also should be singular. If the subject is plural, you'll use the plural verb here. You is a special case. With you use the plural verb, right? Though you is a singular one, singular second person, but it is an exception. You have to use are or are not if it is a negative sentence with you. And with I, you always use am. And when forming negative sentence, you will just say I am not plus the verb plus ing. So this is how you will form positive or affirmative sentence and negative sentence in present continuous tense. Now let us see how we can form interrogative sentence and WH question. Interrogative sentences are nothing but question sentences, sentences that carry a question, right? So for that, the structure is, first you will write the be verb. Okay, the be verb can be am, are, or is. Okay, first thing is be verb. Interrogative sentence in present continuous start with the be verb. Then you will mention the subject. It could be I, we, you, they, or it could be he, she, it, or any singular form. And then the main verb plus ing. So this is the structure for interrogative sentences. It will start with the be verb, am, are, or is. Now if would you use am, are, is would depend on the subject. Okay, so if the subject is I, you will always use am. Am I sleeping is right. Are I sleeping? Wrong. Is I sleeping is wrong. So with I, you always use am. So am I sleeping? With we, you, they, you will use are. Are we sleeping? Are you sleeping? Alright. With he, she, it, and any other singular noun, here in case we have taken Reena, we will use the verb is. Is he sleeping? Is she sleeping? Is it sleeping? Is Reena sleeping? Alright. Now, when forming, now let's see how to form WH questions. So the structure would be, first you will mention the WH word. Now to form WH questions, the structure that we follow is this. First you will mention the WH word, then the be verb, that is am, are, is, then the subject, and then the main verb plus ing. In some situations, while making WH questions, we sometimes exclude the subject. We do not include the subject. As in this example, who is sleeping? There is no subject here. So in this case, you use one WH word first, then the be verb, you exclude the subject, and then you directly write the main verb plus ing. Now, so you will use is, am, are. That would depend on the subject. When there is a subject in the sentence, okay, in a WH question, in that case you have to see whether you use is, am, are. Okay, so you will use am with I, are with we, you, they, and is with he, she, it, or any singular noun. Now let us discuss the next topic, that is verbs of perception. Verbs of perception. Verbs of perception refer to emotions and feelings, senses, state of existence, and possession. this way, they are different from verbs that denote action. So there are verbs in English that refer or denote emotions and feelings, senses, state of existence and possession, and not action. Okay, they do not denote action. They denote emotions, feelings, senses, state of existence and possession. And such verbs are called as verbs of perception. Now see the example. Words such as hate, hear, mean, see, know, want, believe, desire, and love, these are all verbs of perception. Okay, these are all verbs of perception. They are not denoting any kind of action. Hate means it is referring to a kind of emotion or feeling, right? Here is referring to a kind of sense. Mean, see, these are all not referring to any kind of action. Rather, they are denoting some emotions, feelings, senses, state of existence, and possession. So, such verbs, or you can say verbs of perceptions, cannot be used in present continuous forms because they do not refer to any action. So these verbs cannot be they are not used usually in present continuous forms. Now let's see the following list of verbs of perception. Okay, see the first one: adore, admire, believe, desire, doubt, esteem, fear, hate, know, like, love, prefer, respect, suppose, think, understand, value. These are all verbs, but these are verbs of perception because they do not refer to actions. Rather, these particular words refer to emotional and mental state. Okay, they denote emotional and mental state. You do not get any action. They are not referring to any action. Rather, they are referring to emotional and mental state. Alright, see the next. Hear, feel, see, smell, sound, taste. These are not denoting actions, but they are denoting senses. They are used to denote senses. Agree, appear, deny, impress, mean, please, promise, seem. They are denoting casual relations and communication. Casual relations and communications. Belong, concern, consist, contain, depend, involve, lack, need, awe, own, possess. These are all showing possessions, association, and attachments, and not any action. So some of these verbs can take progressive forms when they refer to physical states. Okay, some of the in this point we just read, right, that verbs of perceptions cannot be used. Most of them cannot be used in present continuous forms, but they can sometimes be used in present continuous form if they refer to physical state. So let's understand through this column what this point is saying. Okay, look at column A, first one. See the example. I feel that we should inform the police. I feel that we should inform the police. Here, feel. Okay, the verb feel denotes a mental state or an opinion, and we know whenever they denote a mental state or opinion, they are verbs of perception. So we cannot write them in present continuous form. We cannot. This sentence would be wrong. I am feeling that we should inform the police is incorrect because here feel denotes or means a mental state or an opinion. Okay, but this same word can be used in present continuous form in this way. See the example in column B. Please switch on the AC. I am feeling very hot. Now here the word feeling refers to the physical state, right? It is referring to the physical state, and therefore they can take the progressive form or present continuous form. Similarly, see the rest. Let's see other examples. Do you see what he means? Do you see what he means? Here, see. What does the word see here mean? It means understanding and communication. It is denoting understanding and communication, right? And that is a verb of perception. So here you cannot use see in the form of in a present continuous form. You cannot say are you seeing what he is meaning, would be incorrect. You cannot do this. You cannot write it in present continuous form. But come to column B and look at this example. He is seeing a doctor today. He is seeing a doctor today. Here seeing is referring to the action of meeting a doctor. So it is referring to an action. So actions can be, verbs that denote actions can be used in present continuous form. So this is correct. Therefore it can take the progressive form. So just now we saw that sometimes see cannot be used in present continuous form, sometimes it can be used. It would depend. If it refers to an action in the sentence, then it can form a present continuous, take a present continuous form. Or if it refers to a physical state, then it will take a present continuous form. See the next one. She thinks she is always right. She thinks she is always right. Here thinks is denoting towards an opinion, a mental state. So you cannot write as this will be incorrect if you write she is thinking she is always right. You cannot use the present form here because it is denoting an opinion or a mental state and not any action. But the same thing can be used in present form in this way. See the example. She is thinking of learning a foreign language. It refers to the act of contemplation and therefore can take the progressive form. So here it is referring to an action, right? Action of thinking, act of thinking. So hence it can take the progressive form in this particular case. See the next one. I have a rare picture of Mahatma Gandhi. I have. Okay, I have. Here have denotes possession. It denotes possession. So here the have used here is actually a verb of perception, and hence it cannot be used in present continuous form. So I am having a rare picture of Mahatma Gandhi is incorrect. You cannot write this in present continuous form. It seems you are having fun here. But here in this case you can see we are using the present continuous form. I am having a bath now. Right? I am having a bath now. Are you having? This is present continuous form, right? Are you having your lunch at this late hour? So in the above sentences, the progressive form of the verb have refers to enjoyment in sentence 1. Action of taking bath in sentence 2. The action of eating lunch in sentence 3. Therefore, the verbs in these three cases take a progressive form. The same verb has been used in progressive form in this sentence because in the first one it is referring to a physical state, that is enjoyment, right? They're enjoying, they are having fun. In the second one it is denoting an action of taking bath, and in the third one also it is denoting the action of eating the lunch. So therefore they can take take a progressive form in these three cases.